kind of some shit happened.
Well, Jimmy Garoppolo said it best. And although he was talking about a specific play that we'll look at later, that statement could be applied to pretty much this whole game. And it was a very sloppy, ugly game with a lot of turnovers, but it was also an extremely entertaining game. One that I had the privilege to attend in person, thanks to my lovely wife who bought me some tickets. So, let's get right into this. There's so many cool plays and football things that happened in this game. I want to show you as much as possible. So let's not waste any more time. And unfortunately, we're going to take a look at the opening kickoff because there was a significant injury that occurred. Now here at the end, we see Trenton Cannon laying very awkwardly, and he did not move from that position. They brought the cart out, then they sent the cart back and brought the ambulance out. And so all of us in the stands were very concerned. Let's see if we can see what happened here. And there it is right there. You can see that his own teammate's knee hits him right in the helmet, and his head kind of snaps back. Very scary injury. Fortunately, just a concussion. Looks like he's going to be all right. So the Seahawks get the ball, but they don't do anything with it. And here they're facing a third down, and they try this wide receiver screen. And the problem is, you can easily see, is there's only 2 blockers and 3 defenders right there. And it's a hopelessly conservative play call. And here the Seahawks deliver an electric shock to the 49ers as the hopelessly conservative Pete Carroll calls a fake punt on his own 27-yard line, and it goes all the way for a touchdown. Oh my goodness. Let's go back to the snap. Very simple play. Instead of snapping the ball to Michael Dixon, they snap it to the personal protector, Travis Homer. And he just follows a nice little block around, and the outside gunner is Dante Johnson. He's supposed to watch for this, and where is he? He's nowhere to be seen. And there he finally shows up, and as you can see, he never saw this coming, and indeed the Niners probably never saw this coming. Normally teams don't fake punt from their own 27-yard line, but it kind of reminded me of a play that the 49ers ran back in 2012. Let's go back and take a look. Here we go. 49ers at Patriots, December of 2012. San Francisco beat Tom Brady at home in December in what was a huge game for the 49ers, and I believe that gave them a lot of momentum to make it all the way to the Super Bowl that year. And in the game, they used the same fake punt. Instead of snapping the ball to Andy Lee, they snap it to Deshaun Goldson. Now, in this case, the inside gunner was ready for it, and it still didn't matter. Goldson was able to take it for a big gain, and the 49ers went on to win. And so there you have it. The Seahawks take the lead 7-0 on a 73-yard fake punt. When you got nothing to lose. But now the 49ers get the ball, and let's see how they go after Seattle's defense, which has not been very good this year. But here they do a good job of covering all the wide receivers for the 49ers. And to make matters worse, Garoppolo is about to get sacked. So he has got to get rid of this ball. You can see he's already winding up to throw right when George Kittle starts moving to his left, and the pass is incomplete. Not a good start for the 49ers, and the Seahawks get the ball back again. And here, the Seahawks have a plan. They're going to use Dwayne Brown to block Samson Ebukam, but the center, Posich, is going to be the one blocking DJ Jones, and that will free up the guard, Kyle Fuller, to fire off into the second level and block for a Mr. Adrian Peterson. But there's a problem with this plan. DJ Jones is simply way too fast to get picked off by the center like that, and he penetrates deep into the Seahawks backfield. Now again, the Seahawks are going to try to convert this with a rather conservative looking wide receiver screen. And again, we see only 2 blockers for about a zillion 49er defenders. Now you may be thinking, okay, Josh, I get it. But why are you highlighting Jaquiski Tartt and DJ Jones? They're too far away to have an impact on this play, right? Well, in fact, we're actually going to zoom in on DJ Jones. Watch as he comes over and strips this football away. If Jones had decided to take the play off and let somebody else make that tackle, that fumble never would have happened. But the 49ers recover it, and they get the ball deep in Seattle territory. Big play for San Francisco. The 49ers capitalize immediately. Check out Jimmy Garoppolo using his eyes to hold the safety Quandre Diggs here. In fact, he even throws in a pump fake for good measure, which causes Diggs, watch his feet as he just steps forward just slightly. And once Kittle slides behind him and is as far away as possible from those safeties, Garoppolo hits him in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, San Francisco. And watch how patient Garoppolo is. Right here, he waits and then throws it. Nice job. The 49ers even the score up 7-7, and now they don't feel so bad about that fake punt maybe. Now Seattle would get the ball back, and one thing they did say very openly this week is that they wanted to get DK Metcalf the football. And here you can see they're taking a shot with him. And Emmanuel Mosley is all over him. But check out DK, he's doing a good job of not running down those yard markers, but just to the outside of them, or should I say the inside of them. And that's the proper way to do it. If you run right down those yard markers, you don't give the quarterback any room to go to the outside with the football. And that's exactly what Wilson does here. And Metcalf, he jumps up, but he kind of jumps to the side at the same time. I don't think he really needed to do that. And watch as he lands out of bounds here. That's an incomplete pass. I think he just misjudged the ball a little bit. But is it fair to say that Metcalf has been almost a disappointment this season for Seattle? In any event, they're forced to punt. And I know they're on their own 27-yard line. But watch the fake, boys, because you never know now, right? That's something San Francisco has to think about every time now. They played it safe, only putting one man on each of the gunners, and when you play it safe, you don't get a return. So that's right where they're going to get the ball. And Garoppolo throws it right back to the Seattle Seahawks. Bobby Wagner, Hall of Famer, makes another play for Seattle. Let's see if we can find out what happened here. They start off by faking the toss to Elijah Mitchell, and that does succeed in moving Wagner. And Trent Sherfield will cut in behind him. That's the idea of the play. But as soon as Wagner realizes it's not a toss, he immediately retreats. And quarterbacks don't read the linebackers, they read the safeties. Now I still wonder how they don't see a linebacker that's sitting right in front of them. We looked at a play last year where Aaron Rodgers did this. Of course, that doesn't make it any less frustrating. Now, one more thing. Shanahan did say if Garoppolo had waited a minute, Sherfield would have been open, which is true. But check out number 52, Darrell Taylor. He's got the pressure on Jimmy, and I don't think Garoppolo had time to wait for this window to open up. Nevertheless, he should not have thrown this football, and it puts Seattle in a great position early in the game. And already we can tell that this game is going to have a lot of back and forth to it, and you're not going to believe what happens next. Nick Bosa with the strip sack, and the Seahawks lose a huge amount of yardage on this play. Here, Wilson tries to scramble away from the rush of Nick Bosa. This is very wise. But Samson Ebukam again gets a great push on this, and this allows Eric Armstead to loop around. Wilson has nowhere to go, and here he makes a big mistake. He needs to tuck this football away and take the sack. Instead, he tries to lift it up and throw this ball away. There's no time for that. The ball is fumbled, and it's a disaster for the Seahawks. Now, they're unable to recover from this 2nd and 43, but they do try to kick a long field goal here. But I'll tell you something about Seahawks Stadium, which they used to call Quest Field, and then they started calling CenturyLink Field, and now they call it Lumen Field. But there's an open end and a closed end. And the open end is the direction they're kicking in, and it's just like Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh has that open end, and it's very hard to kick in that direction. And it's the same in Lumen Field. And darned if they don't miss this kick. So San Francisco takes over with great field position, and here the 49ers are pulling Laken Tomlinson. He's going to block Darrell Taylor, and George Kittle will block Jamal Adams, and Elijah Mitchell will take this ball into the second level. But unfortunately, Bobby Wagner is sitting there waiting for him, and the Seattle linebackers put themselves in perfect position for this play. One other thing, it's impossible not to notice that George Kittle seems to be facing the wrong direction. And that is because this play is a reverse. It's not very often you see a tight end reverse in the NFL, and former 49er DJ Reed gets in on the tackle. Here they use Kyle Juszczyk to block Jamal Adams, so that Elijah Mitchell can run behind him. Now Adams does a great job of sidestepping Kyle Juszczyk here, but look at the top of the screen. We see Brandon Aiyuk going deep on the play. Shouldn't he be blocking? Well, no. And the reason is, this isn't a running play. It's a pass, and they're clearing out that side of the field so Kyle Juszczyk can go out for a route. Oh, those tricky Niners. But I want you to watch real carefully Kyle Juszczyk's feet here. He kind of starts running backwards and stutters his feet a little bit and slows up just ever so slightly. And he makes a great leaping effort to get to this ball, but the timing was just not quite there, and they don't quite get this one. They just missed this one. Football truly is a game of inches. But they come right back to him. Brandon Aiyuk runs right into the area of Sidney Jones, and Sidney Jones totally gets caught in no man's land here, and Kyle Juszczyk runs underneath for a pass. The Seahawks know how important it is to stop Shanahan's running game, but if you sell out to stop the run, Shanahan and Garoppolo are going to carve you up with passes all game long. And again the 49ers fake the handoff to Elijah Mitchell, and again the Seattle defense bites on it. Jamal Adams and our old friend Kerry Hyder Jr. bite on this fake, and nobody goes with George Kittle, who is wide open. Now it looks like Jamal Adams actually has an angle to run George Kittle out of bounds here, but Kittle puts a little move on him, and Adams leaves his jock right on the field. And here the 49ers cap off the drive. Garoppolo holds the ball out in front of Mitchell for the whole world to see. Is it a fake so that George Kittle can run to the corner? Or perhaps Kyle Juszczyk will run a route in the other direction? Those would be good options, but the 49ers decide to run a traditional running play here, and they just put a hat on a hat, straight up blocking. And the fake holds the defense long enough to make this possible, especially the safety, Quandre Diggs. Now, I'm not even saying Diggs did the wrong thing here. His job is to make sure nothing gets behind him. He's the last line of defense. He is the safety. So he's got to make sure that Brandon Aiyuk doesn't cut in behind him for an easy touchdown reception first, and then he can go play the run. But by that time, the ball is already across the goal line. The 49ers seem to have found their groove, and the touchdown makes the score San Francisco 14, Seattle 7. The 49er defense made big plays for the entire game, and this is no exception. They cover all the Seattle receivers quite well, and you can see the pocket collapsing in on Russell Wilson. And Eric Armstead gets the sack. So San Francisco gets the ball back and they continue to move the football. Here, Jordan Brooks is in good position. He needs to stay in his lane though and take away this cutback from Elijah Mitchell. But instead he overruns the play. Now Mitchell sells this and then spins and makes the cutback move. Hard to believe this kid's a rookie. On this next play you'll see a rare occurrence. Watch Mitchell run through this tackle of Bobby Wagner. You don't see that very often. Now on this next play, Wagner gets himself right into perfect position. And Mitchell runs right through him again. Wow. Bobby Wagner, definitely a Hall of Famer like we said earlier, but also clearly slowing down a little bit at the end of his career. In fact, I can't ever remember seeing him come up short on back-to-back tackles like that. So it puts the 49ers in position to try a long field goal, and yes, they are kicking towards that open end. Now, this isn't as long as the Seahawks kick earlier in the game, but it's still a high degree of difficulty, and Robbie Gould nails it. The Seattle mascot Blitz has changed into a Santa uniform, but he's not really feeling the Christmas spirit right now. But the Seahawks do get the ball back, and here, the conservative Seattle offense reach deep into their bag of tricks. It's another wide receiver screen and the 49er defense is all over it. But this ball was clearly thrown backwards, and there's only one blocker. And the 49er defense is heading aggressively in that direction as fast as they can. And you see some wide receivers going deep down the field, and now we start to realize, oh, this is going to be another one of those throwback to the quarterback trick plays. And now we finally see why they were running all those wide receiver screens earlier in the game. They were setting the 49ers up for this play. Now, the 49ers have seen this play 3 times now in the last 2 weeks, and I think that's a bit of a bad break for Seattle. The Niners ran a similar version, and the Vikings ran a similar version in the game last week against Minnesota. So the 49er defense is well prepared for this play. They've got Tyler Lockett completely bracketed here. There's no chance that this is going to be a completed pass. Nevertheless, check out the throw Russell Wilson makes on this play. That is a sick pass, and that is what makes Russell Wilson so good. He gives his players a chance even when there is no chance. So this brings up a 3rd and 14 for the Seattle offense. And check out Deommodore Lenoir in press coverage against DK Metcalf on this play. Safety Talanoa Hufanga is sitting at the sticks at the line to gain where the first down is. Now, one thing about a team when you are facing a 3rd and very long like that, if you're around that 40-yard line area, it means you can just take a shot at the end zone instead. Your odds are about equal on each play, so you might as well go for the score. And in this place, with Hufanga sitting at the sticks and Jaquiski Tartt having to come from all the way across the field, they're playing right into Seattle's hands here. Lenoir should not have been impressed with this kind of coverage because DK Metcalf already has him beat. And again, we're going to see another spectacular throw from Russell Wilson. Now, earlier we talked about the fact that it's been somewhat of a frustrating year for DK this season. But here I think he makes a real bad decision. He clearly sees Tartt laying on the ground, and he gets up and intentionally stomps on his ankle while he's laying there. That is the most awful display of sportsmanship I can possibly imagine, physically attacking another player. And if we're holding DK to the same standard that we hold Albert Hainsworth and Ndamukong Suh, DK Metcalf must be suspended for an intentional stomp, just as those players were. I will be very interested to see what discipline is handed down on Friday. So now that we've addressed that, let's get back to the analysis. And I mentioned that when teams are facing 3rd and long and they're about that 40-yard line range, sometimes they like to just take a shot at the end zone. And the Seahawks had a 3rd and 14 there. So let's go back and give some historical context to that play and take a look at a very, very big 3rd and 14 in NFL history. We're going to go back to the 1994 AFC Championship game, Chargers at Steelers. And there you can see the Chargers are facing a 3rd and 14, and they're at the 43-yard line. And they go directly at the end zone. Stan Humphries hitting Tony Martin for a 43-yard touchdown pass. And that would be the game-winning score. Now we have the all-22 of this, so let's take a look at what we see. There's the 29-yard line, the line to gain, and Tim McKyer, former 49er, sets up right there to try to take away the first down, and Tony Martin just runs right by him. The Chargers would go on to face San Francisco in the Super Bowl. The Seahawks used the same strategy. He'll have seen Lenore in press in his pre-snap read, so Wilson looks off Tart first and then hits DK Metcalf deep. And in case there's no doubt about what DK did, there it is again. And once again, if you're holding him to the standard of Albert Hainsworth and Ndamukong Suh, DK must be suspended for that play. The Seahawks would go on to punch it in with Adrian Peterson, who scores a touchdown for his 6th NFL team. Some people talk about longevity as if it's some kind of a negative, but I think it's an attribute that Peterson has been able to play so long, and he is surely a first-ballot Hall of Famer. The Seahawks kick the extra point, making the score 14-17. Remember, San Francisco leads because they got that field goal earlier. And now the 49ers have a chance to kill some clock and try to score right before the end of the half. Remember, they like to score at the end of the half and then get the ball in the second half and score again, what Shanahan calls lapping the opponent. Let's take a look at their approach. Now in this case, it's instructive to take a look at what the defense is doing. The Seahawks are defending San Francisco's receivers one-on-one. They have Quandre Diggs as the high safety, and Jamal Adams has dropped down to pick up George Kittle. Now Seattle is only rushing 3 here, and the linebackers Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner do come up to meet the play-action fake. But that's only 2 linebackers, and they're rushing 3, so there must be some extra defensive backs in there somewhere, but I don't quite see them. Now, something's not adding up here, so, add with me. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Seattle's defending this play with only 10 men on the field. Now, I mentioned before that the Niners started off with a play-action fake, and yes, that does draw in the linebackers, which opens up the middle of the field for George Kittle. He's one-on-one against Jamal Adams, and Adams has already been exposed as a liability in coverage, and the pass is complete, and the 49ers get a first down. Tough day for Jamal Adams, who's had a string of tough days this year. Now here Seattle does have all 11 players on defense, plus the 12th man. I kid. The Seahawks do rush 4, and they drop Ryan Neal down, mainly because the 49ers have left Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle in to help with pass protection, and you never know when one of those guys could leak out for a route. Jordan Brooks fills Ryan Neal's spot, so the Seahawks have that side of the field pretty well defended. Bobby Wagner and Quandre Diggs post up in the middle, and now that we've taken a look at all that, we can see that it's pretty clear these 3 receivers for San Francisco are going to be guarded by these 3 defenders for Seattle. Now we can look at the route because this is a beautiful design by Kyle Shanahan. The Niners start out by sending Jauan Jennings and Brandon Aiyuk deep. Trent Sherfield will cut in behind them. Now, Sidney Jones tries to stay with Sherfield, but the route of Jauan Jennings interferes with this. And because Brandon Aiyuk has gone deep, we can see that now some space is starting to open up in the middle of the field for Sherfield. Nevertheless, Bobby Wagner does slide over to kind of cover that space and take that away. But Shanahan is a step ahead of them. Because Jones has to sell out to catch back up with Sherfield, the route calls for Sherfield to put on the brakes and cut back to the outside, coming wide open in the process. Now, as we've said on this channel before, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. And in this case, the pass protection for the 49ers is not good. And these defenders are going to close in on Garoppolo, and Jimmy does a nice job of buying some time and then completing this pass. Nice catch by Sherfield too. Great play design, great execution, and a key first down for San Francisco. Now in this play, we can get a good look and see how sometimes the Seattle defense can be pretty bad, as 8 different defenders bite on this play action fake. And because Brandon Aiyuk is taking his man deep, there is nobody on that side of the field to pick up George Kittle. In fact, the 49ers have 2 different players open on this, George Kittle and Jauan Jennings. Garoppolo takes the easier throw to Kittle, and I'm 100% okay with that. There's a man right in Jimmy's face, and Garoppolo chooses the higher percentage play. In fact, Jennings ends up throwing the key block that springs George Kittle on this play, and let's check out this fancy footwork. He stayed in bounds there. Yes, he did. Let's go back to the snap. Now from this angle, we get a great look at how the movement of the offensive line really helps to sell this fake and gets the entire Seattle defense to react. And can you ever remember a 49ers tight end with footwork like this down the sideline? Well, that's exactly the kind of question we like to answer on this channel. So let's go back to 2011. Look at this footwork. Now, which tight end is this, do you think? Vernon Davis, there he is. That's right, he scored a touchdown. And Kittle scored a touchdown too. Both those plays would count. Now, Robbie Gould misses the extra point. You see it hit the upright there. So the score is going to remain 23-14, only a 9-point lead. And if you're keeping track, that's now 8 points that special teams has given up for the 49ers. The fake punt for the touchdown and the missed extra point. Just file that away for later. It's a spectacular play for Kittle, who goes the distance, but one thing happened with that, which is the 49ers scored very quickly. Maybe a little quicker than they wanted to. And now they give Seattle the ball back. This disrupts their plan to lap the opponent a little bit, or at least has the potential to, if Seattle can score on this drive. So let's take a look at this drive. Now, let's take a look here. You can see a defender right in Russell Wilson's face. That's Arden Key, and we're going to zoom in, and you can see that he hits him high. Now, I'm sure Key didn't mean to do this, but you're still not allowed to hit him high, right? I kind of look at it like running a stop sign that you didn't see. You didn't mean to do it, but you're still not allowed to do it, and if a cop sees you, you're going to get a ticket, and that's exactly what happens here. The 49ers get a ticket for 15 yards, and the Seahawks move down the field with time winding down in the second half. Not a good situation. Now let's move ahead a little further. And this time it's Amenahu who hits him high. And again, this is going to be a personal foul, and this is going to give Seattle a 1st and goal. Now, you can make the argument that both of these are kind of ticky-tack calls, or that the league is getting soft and they're giving too much protection to quarterbacks and all those kinds of things. But the bottom line is they called the first one, so you know they're going to be watching extra closely on the second one. And at some point, you have to adjust to the officiating, right? I was a little disappointed to see the 49ers committing these kinds of fouls in this situation. Got to be a little smarter than that. The Seahawks take advantage of this when Diamador Lenore gives the Seattle rookie Eskridge, that they really like, a lot of space here. And in fact, it almost looks as if Lenore has kind of relaxed a little bit. Maybe he thinks this ball is heading in a different direction. And when Wilson guns it in there, Lenore is left trying to make an awkward tackle, and Eskridge just goes right around him. And it's a big score for Seattle right before the end of the half. And it makes the score San Francisco 23, Seattle 21. After all that, they're only down by 2. And remember, Trenton Cannon had to leave the game on the very first play due to a serious concussion. So Travis Benjamin is in, and he fumbles the football, and Seattle recovers. Oh my goodness. Forget about the Niners lapping the Seahawks. The Seahawks are about to lap the 49ers. And the Seahawks try to take advantage immediately with a really creative goal line play. They send Rashad Penny out of the backfield into the zone of K'Wan Williams. And when he goes with him, Gerald Everett, who had that fumble earlier, takes the space the defense left behind. And he bobbles the ball, and it's intercepted by K'Wan Williams. Oh my goodness, the twists and turns in this game. Now, it would have been best if Williams had just gone down into the end zone here, and if your momentum is carrying you in that direction, which it looks like it was, that would be a touchback. But Williams decides to try to run this ball out, and I think that's a mistake because he gets tackled at the 3-yard line. As it turns out, that would be a costly mistake for San Francisco, because by now they've only advanced the ball to their 4, so they're facing a key 3rd down and 9. And they're backed up, and Seattle's defense is covering all the wide receivers pretty good here. You can take a look, they've only gone from the 4 to about the 7. Now, it's true that George Kittle probably would have uncovered later, but there's no time for that. Carlos Dunlap has absolutely smoked Tom Compton, and he immediately brings Garoppolo to the ground. And I don't care who's in there. Trey Lance, John Elway, doesn't matter. He gets enough of them to bring him down right then and there for a safety. To illustrate this, let's highlight George Kittle. You can see his back foot is on the 2. And here's Carlos Dunlap. Watch as he caves in Tom Compton, and watch how quickly he gets to Garoppolo. It's simply a great play by Carlos Dunlap, and it ties the game 23-23, and by rule, the 49ers have to punt to Seattle after a safety, so they get the ball back, and here they go for the kill shot. You can see that the Seahawks have DK Metcalf wide open. He has beaten Josh Norman on the go route. But here Russell Wilson makes an uncharacteristically bad throw. You don't see that very often. Norman points at the camera as if he's the one who made the play, but I think it's Russell Wilson's finger that was more the issue there. Now in the next play, Arden Key salvages the situation by sacking Russell Wilson on a key 3rd down, knocking the Seahawks out of field goal range. And this time it's the rookie Jake Curhan's turn to get caved in. And you can remember earlier they had Kyle Fuller in that guard spot, so the Seahawks are clearly still trying to figure things out on the offensive line, and Wilson pays the price. And here, I feel like Shanahan made his first big coaching mistake of the game. You can see the ball's at the 39-yard line. That's too far away for a field goal because they're kicking into that open end. It'd be a 56-yarder, and they've already missed one earlier in the game. So they got to punt here. But it's hard to punt when you're that close to the end zone. You know, you've got to get that ball high enough so there's not a big return on you, but you want to keep it out of the end zone at the same time. It's really tricky. So the Seahawks employ a really interesting tactic here, which is to take a penalty on purpose. They intentionally take the delay of game to make the punt easier for Dixon. Now, Shanahan has the right to decline that penalty, and that's what he should have done. Instead, he accepts the penalty, makes the punt easier for Dixon, and you can see he kicks it down to the 8-yard line. It ends up being a great punt. I think that was a pretty big error on Shanahan's part, and this is what I mean when I say I think he needs an assistant head coach to kind of help him with these on-the-field decisions. You know, we know how great he is at drawing up these schemes and evaluating key offensive players and getting them on the field and putting them in position to make big plays. But when it comes to making decisions on the field, managing the clock, that kind of thing, he needs a little help, and it shows. And here the 49ers lean on one of their best playmakers, and they get a little help when Seattle gets a little too cute with their defense. The 49ers put Kyle Juszczyk in motion at the start of the play, and no one goes with him, so usually that's a zone. Now Seattle's got a bunch of players up at the line of scrimmage. It's kind of a ridiculous look. They're never going to rush that many players. But San Francisco can't be too sure of who's coming on a blitz, who's dropping back, etc. Now, what the Seahawks do is they do send 5 players on a blitz, but they drop everyone else back in man-to-man with one safety back deep. Now, because the 49ers are running 5 receivers into the pattern, Quandre Diggs gets way deep on this in case one of the corners gets burned on the play, which is exactly what happens. Brandon Aiyuk gives Amadi a move to the outside. Amadi bites on the move, and he doesn't quite seem to get the memo that they're playing man here. He thinks they're in zone, and he just lets Brandon Aiyuk cut back to the inside deep for a pass. The 49ers lost the field position battle for most of this game. The decision to accept the delay of game penalty on the punt didn't help, and here the 49ers finally get a little breathing room, but Shanahan follows it up with what is, in my opinion, another bad decision. If you remember at the end of the first half, the 49ers really started to get in a rhythm when they started running the football with Elijah Mitchell, and that's kind of been their bread and butter this season. I would have liked to have seen Shanahan do that here. It was first down. There was no reason to go right back to the pass and call another deep route. Now it's true, Trent Sherfield is open on this play, so I can kind of understand it. But Garoppolo throws this ball to where Sherfield is, not to where he's going to be. Now it's impossible to really know whose fault that is, right? We don't know what the route is that Sherfield was supposed to run there. But I can tell you this, that is not an area of the field where you would usually sit up and wait. If I had to bet on it, I would bet that that one was Garoppolo's fault. And he said after the game, he simply got too greedy on that pass. And it puts the Seahawks in position to take advantage again. Now Nick Bosa gets a great rush here. But check out the beautiful footwork that Lockett uses to get away from the press of Josh Norman. And of course, Russell Wilson makes another beautiful throw. The Wilson to Lockett connection has been fantastic for Seattle, and the two of them combined for yet another beauty. And now Seattle goes up by 7 points, 30-23. Now guys, I apologize for the quality for the next 30 seconds or so here, but I really want to show you this because this is pretty interesting to me. Watch center Alex Mack move the ball to snap it and then put it back. You can't do that. That's a false start, that's a penalty, and it's a dead ball foul. It's supposed to be immediately whistled dead. And Bobby Wagner's reaction to this is great. Check this out. Now, where have I seen that reaction in sports before? Let me think. Oh, yes, here it is. Same reaction. Look at Wagner. Now, justice served, the 49ers don't run the zone read right anyway. Wagner makes the tackle. The play ends up getting whistled dead after the fact. The officials kind of came on and sheepishly explained that they should have blown it dead. And that's the quote that Garoppolo gave at the beginning of this video when he was asked about it in his press conference. Sometimes stuff happens. So now the Seahawks get the ball back, and the 49ers cannot let them score again. We're in the fourth quarter, so it's crunch time. And here the defense has all the Seattle receivers covered real well. And Jordan Willis will not be denied, and he gets the sack on Russell Wilson. Seahawks punt, but again we see their dominance in field position. But here, Garoppolo makes a spectacular throw. You can see that he's got Kyle Juszczyk open. The defender's all over him, but his back is turned and Juszczyk has a step. The problem is Garoppolo doesn't really have a good angle to get him this football. If he throws it right to him, he's just going to hit the defender in the back of the head and it's going to be an incomplete pass. So Garoppolo throws the football away from the defender and Juszczyk just makes a terrific adjustment to the ball. What a throw, what a catch. The 49ers ran the same play in 2018 with Nick Mullins and George Kittle when they were backed up against their own goal line. Instead, it's Kyle Juszczyk who comes over and pretends to block for Elijah Mitchell and then goes out for a pass route. Now, I gotta say, Jordan Brooks has a sixth sense somehow that this ball is coming, and watch as he sticks his hand up, even though he can't see the ball. He knew it was there, but Garoppolo and Juszczyk made the play happen. Now watch here as Aiyuk kind of sits up and then has to jump up for this football, and that's okay. Now this is ruled a catch on the field, and that's significant because the Seahawks would challenge this play. And remember, to overturn something that's called on the field, you need incontrovertible evidence. Pete Carroll wanted this to be an incomplete pass. So let's take a look here. You have the catch, right? Possession of the football. He secures it 1 foot down, 2 feet down, 3 feet down, a knee down. Now at this point, he should be down by contact. Then he rolls over. Now his back and side are on the ground. He should be down by contact again. You can see the ball is still securely in his possession, right? That's 4 or 5 feet down. I don't know. Then the ball comes out. So this is not the Calvin Johnson going to the ground rule. And wouldn't you believe, of course you would, the officials in New York, the replay officials, give Seattle a hometown call here. They say incomplete pass. Remember, it wasn't ruled an incomplete pass. They overturned a call on the field of a completion. And what is a completion anymore? Heck, Mike Vrabel wants to know. He's posting their own rules to them. And really, that's been my problem with NFL officiating this year, right? Is that the guys on the field, for the most part, are getting it right. You know, I know we complain about them, but if you look with a fine-tooth comb, the officials on the field, for the most part, are actually doing a pretty good job. It's the replay center in New York that is not following their own rules. Again, where are your standards? So this was a devastating ruling for the 49ers, who now have to give the ball back to Seattle with time winding down in the fourth. And with time winding down, Seattle bleeds the clock with some running plays and then gets a big play on a screen pass that puts them in a position to stick in the dagger. And there it is, and well, there's a tackle short of the goal line. Wait a second. The 49ers are saying they have this ball. What in the world? Let's see if we can figure out what happened here. The Seahawks come up with yet another clever little play. They bring Gerald Everett around as if he's going to block, but he's actually going to catch a very short pass and turn upfield and try to score real quick. The play fooled Nick Bosa. And check out Russell Wilson throw this pass with his left hand. Turn out the lights, the party's over. But of course, when Meredith would sing that, Howard Cosell would tell him, no, the party's not over. And watch as Azeez Al-Shaair, the newest linebacking hero in a long string of linebacking heroes for the 49ers, comes over and sticks his helmet right on this football. Gerald Everett turns the ball over for the third time today, and the San Francisco 49ers get another big goal line heroic stop in Seattle to save the game, and now they've got a chance to go down and tie it. Now, needing to go 98 yards and with time a factor, you wouldn't think that they would run the ball here, but they fake the run anyway, and Seattle still bites on the fake. George Kittle, who's pretending to block, goes out for a pass, and Garoppolo gets him the football. Now they're down 7 points and they need to go a long way, so they're in a position, which they've put themselves in, where they can't afford to make any mistakes. So Garoppolo lobs up a nice, easy pass for Kittle to catch. Now Garoppolo can't throw outside the numbers, except that he can. It's a little trap that talk radio hosts have kind of fallen into. He doesn't like to throw outside the numbers. That doesn't mean he can't do it. And here you can see he's got a lot of time for this deep throw. That's great protection. And the Seattle pass rush is gassed. One more thing. This ball is on the far hash, so it's got to travel a long way across the field. Perfect throw. Now Garoppolo is always so cool and calm in these situations, and here he has Charlie Warner for probably a touchdown. But he takes the easier throw to Kittle instead. And ask yourself, what would you do? Would you go for the bomb with Charlie Warner, or take the higher percentage throw to George Kittle? Remember, the 49ers are in a position that they put themselves in where they can't make any mistakes. Now Seattle has got to stop the bleeding here, so Ken Norton, who was rumored to be quietly demoted, I think that's just wishful thinking from Seahawks fans, calls for the defense to press here. And Amadi gets up on his tippy toes a little bit, and Brandon Aiyuk exploits it. And he gets all the way down to about the 6-yard line, and the Niners are in business. Now the 49ers run the ball on the next 2 plays. Why? Well, any coach will tell you, once you get down by the goal line, the easiest way to score is to run the football. And the 49ers want to take some time off the clock a little bit. They're in control here. Now they've run it twice in a row and they fake the run on 3rd down, but they're going to take a couple shots with Garoppolo now. And his first read is over to George Kittle, and he's covered. And after quickly glancing at Aiyuk, he resets his feet and moves to Trent Sherfield. And here we see that Sherfield is kind of wrapped up. But the pass rush of Rasheem Green is going to force Garoppolo to throw this football. So he throws it at Sherfield and tries to get a call. But here's the real interesting thing. Look where the official is looking. He's not looking at Trent Sherfield. And by the time he does, now it looks like they're just battling for the football. Now, the other officials might have had a better view of the play. They're a little further away. But seeing it from this angle, I can kind of understand why a flag wasn't thrown. And if you're a proponent of allowing penalties to be reviewed or pass interference to be reviewed, or lack thereof, this play is an excellent argument in your favor. Because I think the officials, as strange as it may seem, just didn't see it. So it all comes down to this. 4th down, and the 49ers have a man wide open, Trent Sherfield. And guess what? Garoppolo sees him and makes the right read right away and is ready to get him the football. But Carlos Dunlap, who had a good game, again caves in Tom Compton very quickly, and he knocks this football down and makes the game-winning play for the Seahawks. And look at the 49ers all kind of standing around in disbelief. They go, how could this have happened? Well, Seattle fought their hearts out. Hats off to them. And it's no secret, there's been some bad blood between these two teams. But they've also fought some tremendous battles. And after the game, a lot of us noticed a lot of players lingering around on the field, a lot of hugs being exchanged. And suddenly it kind of started to sink in that this could be the end of an era. You know, we don't know if Russell Wilson or Pete Carroll are going to be back next year for Seattle. And while Seahawks fans will be the first to correctly point out that they've blown us out a few times over the last 10 years and have dominated the series, there were some great, close, hard-fought battles in the Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson era. I think back to 2011 when Alex Smith hit that long pass to Crabtree to set up the game-winning field goal, or 2012, that Thursday night football thriller, or how about in 2013 when Frank Gore had that game-winning 52-yard run at the end of the game. Wow, that was awesome. And all three of those games won by the 49ers. Of course, in 2014, people don't remember it was a close game. What they remember was the Seahawks eating turkey on our field on Thanksgiving. 2015 and 2016, those years weren't as kind to the 49ers. But in 2017, we saw the franchise completely change when Jimmy Garoppolo came in at the very tail end of a game against the Seahawks and throw his first ever touchdown pass as a San Francisco 49er. In 2019, Nick Mullins and the 49ers ended Seattle's winning streak against San Francisco in a game that went to overtime. And who can forget the next year, that classic Monday night game in San Francisco where the teams battled back and forth with multiple changes of possession in overtime for Seattle to win that game late. And then at the very end of the year, San Francisco wins on Dre Greenlaw's goal line stand. And then we come to this game. So for a lot of us who were there in the stands, it was a lot of fun. It was like, here we go again. This game was so crazy. Yes, it was ugly and sloppy. There were so many twists and turns, all those turnovers. And at the end of the game, you felt like you wanted the 49ers to win and blow them out. But maybe inside a little bit, you're kind of secretly glad it came down to the very last play the way it did, right? And it's almost like that's how it's meant to be. And who knows, if Pete Carroll's gone next year or Russell Wilson's gone next year, these kinds of games might have a different feel to them in the future. It's just something I couldn't help think about as I was watching the players exchange those hugs at the end of the game. Hats off to the Seahawks. They really played their hearts out, like I said. You can see the film. We all see the film. They're not a good football team. That's no reason to bash them. Just pointing it out. But when you got nothing to lose, just like I said. They pulled out the fake punt, and they announced to the 49ers on that very first series that they were here to play. And they were here to play a good game and have fun. And I think both teams really did. Now, the question, of course, is, are you looking for someone to blame? Why did the 49ers lose that game, right? The 49ers were a much better team, and they didn't get it done. Well, the good news for you is there's plenty of blame to go around. I hesitate at blaming the officials a little bit. I don't know if there was a call that really was unfair and changed the game so that Seattle got an unfair win. Yeah, the roughing the passer calls were pretty ticky-tack, right? You know, they used to call those tough calls. Accurate calls, but tough. Well, that's the way they're being enforced in the league nowadays. It's just a fact of life. I'm not necessarily happy with it, but it's the way it is. It's about player safety. You can look at the Brandon Aiyuk play. That one was very frustrating for me, as I've already gone into it, and I could talk all day about it. You know how I feel about it. But at the end of the day, the Seahawks didn't get any points off of that. That didn't help them necessarily. Now, the one that fans are really going to point to is Trent Sherfield at the end of the game. Some Seattle fans were quick to point out that it was similar to the Hollister play in the 2019 game. Not the same. There's some similarities there. I think when I look at the film from the angle I saw it at, it just seemed like the officials didn't have a clear view of the play. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there's other angles I didn't see. I was at the game, so I didn't see the broadcast angle. So if I am wrong about that, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about that play. Was it an egregious no call? Was it an unfair no call? It would have given the 49ers a first down for sure, and they probably would have just been able to punch it in from that point. And then we would go to overtime. So we don't know if the 49ers would have won that game or not. They would have had the opportunity, which would have been nice. So that aside, who else is there to blame? Well, you can definitely blame Jimmy Garoppolo, right? He threw 2 ugly interceptions. The first one was not as bad as the second one. We've shown on film numerous times on this channel, quarterbacks don't see linebackers that are right in front of them, including Aaron Rodgers. It's just kind of a weird thing that happens in football. You guys have all seen it. The second one, though, that was bad. I think it was a bad decision by Kyle to call that play, and it was a bad decision by Garoppolo to throw that pass. And he didn't throw it in the right area. He was under duress. And it was a situation that called for a more methodical approach, in my opinion. But I think if we're being totally honest and objective, the biggest blame factor has got to be special teams. Remember, I told you to file that 8 points away in your head for later. Well, the 49ers only lost by 7 points. That's not nothing. Take away the fake punt return, take away the missed extra point, and you have a 23-22 victory. Now, I know it would play out differently. I get that. But special teams has really been hurting us this year. And since we're talking about it, under the Kyle Shanahan era, special teams has been a disappointment each and every year for the 49ers. I think there might be a coaching change next year for San Francisco. No, not Kyle Shanahan, but I would not be surprised at all if they moved Tim Hightower out of that special teams role and bring somebody else in, because the 49ers have got to improve in that area. Our punt returns are lackluster. We do not kick enough touchbacks. Did you notice Robbie Gould taking some of the kickoffs today? And we've missed key field goals at key times. We do not cover kicks well. Teams get big returns on us. It's just been a disaster. And not only this year, but each and every year it seems like. Under every year of Kyle Shanahan's tenure. So that's kind of the elephant in the room. Now, I mentioned at the end of this game, the players were kind of hugging it out, and it's when you have a good hard-fought battle with your brother. I feel like, the Seahawks and the 49ers, every time they battle each other, the fans can get really nasty to each other. We talked about the fact that there's bad blood. I think both these teams ultimately just want the same thing, and that's a little respect. And I think the Seahawks definitely earned some respect today with what I saw on the film. Yeah, they're bad, but they played the game in the right way. Nevertheless, there were some 49er players who were kind of downbeat after the game. Nick Bosa, I saw his press conference. He looked like he was really bummed. So, we do got to ask the question, where do the 49ers go from here? Does this derail their playoff run? I think back to 2009 when the 49ers were on a trajectory to make the playoffs, and it seemed pretty clear they were going to make it. They came up to Seattle late in the season and played a bad 4-12 Seahawks team and lost in a tough game. And that did derail their playoff run. I remember Mike Singletary after that game insisting that there was an offensive pass interference that wasn't called, and you go back and look, and do you see it? Well, it's kind of hard, you can't really see it, so who knows? And it seemed like that more than anything else kind of derailed the Mike Singletary coaching tenure as well. They miss the playoffs, and then the next year they start out their first 5 games 0-5. Some of you guys remember this. He ends up getting fired. The next year they bring Harbaugh in, and the rest is history. Is the same thing going to happen to the 49ers this year? We have to accept the possibility now that the 49ers could miss the playoffs. But I don't think that they will. The NFC is a complete disaster, and you're going to get into the playoffs with a pretty mediocre record. The 49ers have 5 games left. If they win 3 of those games, just win 3, lose 2, I think they're probably going in. They'll have a winning record at 9-8. So let's take a look at their next 5 opponents. Next week, they're on the road in Cincinnati. And I know fans are feeling very optimistic about that game. People have been telling me all week long the 49ers are going to win that game in Cincinnati. I'm not so sure. It's a back-to-back road trip for the 49ers. And Cincinnati is pretty good this year. Now, I'm aware that they are all over the place. They score 40 points one week, and then they get blown out by 40 points the next week. So that's going to be the question. Which Bengals team shows up on Sunday? They do have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on their roster, and we're going to have to defend those guys with Josh Norman and Dante Johnson. Emmanuel Mosley is going to be out for 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. He'll be back for the playoffs if we make the playoffs. Joe Mixon has just been a phenom, and I should know. I've got him on my fantasy team. But the Bengals are tough, and they're going to be a tough opponent. And the 49ers are going to have to play really well without some of their key players to get it done. Now, Fred Warner was a full participant in practice. He's going to play. It sounds like Deebo Samuel is at least going to give it a go. So I think the 49er offense will be all right. Maybe they can try to get in a shootout with the Bengals. But for argument's sake, let's just say they lose that game. Well, the following week, they've got the Atlanta Falcons at home. And that's a game they have to win. The 49ers are a superior team to the Falcons. They're playing them at home with the playoffs on the line. They have got to win that game, period, point blank. And I think they will. You know, the 49ers as a team have kind of taken on the personality of Garoppolo, right? You know, we've been talking for years on this channel about the fact that he can be a little reckless with the football sometimes. He's a gunslinger, you know, and what did I tell you a few years ago when they signed him? I said, get comfortable with it. He's going to throw a couple of picks here and there. Get comfortable with it. A lot of fans have not gotten comfortable with it and have actually gone quite the opposite route, and I can understand that. But as a team, the 49ers are kind of the same way. They tend to be, let's say, hit and miss, a little bit streaky sometimes, and when everything's on the line, they're capable of putting together a real good performance just like Garoppolo. And when things are a little bit easier and things aren't on the line, sometimes they take it easier. And I don't think I'm speaking out of pocket here. Against the Falcons, it is going to be on the line, and I think the 49ers will win that game. Then they've got a really tough trip to Tennessee on a Thursday night. A road game on a short week. Road teams only win about 20% of the time on Thursday night. It's the biggest mismatch in all of sports, it seems like. So, again, for argument's sake, let's just say we lose that. Then we have the worst team in the NFL, the Houston Texans, at home. Okay, maybe Detroit's worse. I'm sorry, Houston. Don't mean to disrespect you. But the Niners are going to win that game. So all that puts San Francisco at 8-8 with one game left in the season against the Rams. It might all come down to that last week. What a game that is going to be. All right. It's going to be Niners and Bengals this Sunday. Look out. It's going to be a terrific game. I want to thank all my new subscribers. Please take 2 seconds and just click that like button for me. It took me a long time to make this video. You've been with me for this long. Just click that like button. You guys are the best. After that Bengals game, we will be there to break down that film, and I will see you guys then.